Coming up on this episode of Free Lunch.
Yo, what did you say?
Sack, back, and crack.
Sack, back, and crack. When you are older, I think you find the free time. It's not even free time, right? No, you reallocate time.
For the people watching, why does that even matter, though?
It sets the foundation.
Why?
I can't
Because I look for it.
I can't know how to be a husband, or she can't know how to be a wife without actually seeing it.
The only way we can go towards therapy is if we figure out, if we normalize vulnerability. I went 4 days, 5 days without showering in high school.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Freestyle Gospel, a.k.a. The Real Frii, with another episode of Free Lunch. And I have two amazing, dope guests with me today. Two brothers, two men. So you guys got three fellas on the waves today and kind of get some, it's rare to get some perspective from three brothers in the room, especially who are positive brothers. So I'm really excited to have these gentlemen here today. I got my man, Dr. Dave C., who you guys have been introduced to before. And I got my new special brother guesting today for the first time, Ricardo. Hey, just round of applause for these two gentlemen here. Thank you, gentlemen, for showing up. Dave, what's up, man? I see you brought your apprentice, Ricardo, in today. Yes. Ricardo, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. I'm grateful that you guys are here. So before you guys came in, I knew you guys was coming today. So yesterday, I actually polled the audience on the Facebook, let the ladies know, because a large part of my audience on Facebook, at least, is females. So I let them know I'm going to have two other brothers in the studio, which I don't really get an opportunity to have often. And if they would like me to talk to the fellas about something or have the fellas answer some questions about things that's on their mind. All right. Now, one of these things on the ladies' minds that came up was, how do you fellas feel about the idea of being married but living separately? Now, what I promised the ladies on the live and what I would like to, the way I would like to approach this on the show today is as objectively as we can. Now, obviously, first, I think it's fair, for us and our significant others that might be listening to hear what we do personally feel about it. But then let the discussion kind of go into a more objective, perspective. Just see, if it could be possible, why it could work, why it could not work, how we think in that way. So for me first, I'll go first, right? This is a no-brainer for me. This does not work for me. Not just me personally, how I feel, the needs I know I have as a man in marriage, but also just cannot work for me for some traditional ideals I have about marriage. One mainly being, I don't see how for me I could operate on a level of like complete oneness or unity with my wife if she lived in a whole entirely like separate place. That's one. Then there's the idea I bring, again, another traditional old-fashioned idea of like me or the man being the head of the house, right? Like, so now with two separate houses, like am I like only the head of my house where I live? Or do I get to be like the head of like your house over there where like now you pay the bills and rent? Like that just makes, again, because I'm coming into marriage with my old-fashioned traditional ideals, that's why that can't work for me. I can't, because now even if it does, okay, we go, all right, you have two separate houses. I don't think I want to be the head of two separate houses. Even if she was willing, my wife, to let me, like she has her own house, but it's okay, babe. Like I married you, like you can be head of my house over here too. I wouldn't want to be. Like that's just too much work. It's like guys that I say who they think they could be okay with having several wives. Like, there's cultures like that, right?
Right.
I'm like, bro, one wife is hella work. Like
and hella money too.
I'm sure like to your flesh, like sexually, you might think, oh, this is amazing. Like, but bro, everything else, like the sex is a small piece of the every day-to-day life. The other just overwhelming, not to use the word headaches, but for lack of a better term, honey, I know you're listening. But the very just the emotional, mental, weight and like difficulty in doing marriage, I couldn't do that. So, Ricardo, what say you? Like this, first give me your personal about how you feel, for if you have a significant lady out there listening to you.
Well, I have
and then give me your
girlfriend.
objective. Like,
So I don't have a wife.
okay. But it's significant other.
Yeah, I have a significant other. And the idea of being married to this person, but living separately, like you said, just tears at every fiber of tradition, every religious thing that I have in me that, growing up, just being something that you traditionally seen, I think, honestly, no, I can't personally do it. I can't because it goes against the fact that, like, is this really my girl? Is this really my wife? Like I start questioning like the actual vows. I start questioning the fact that are we really even married? Like those things would come into
this
question.
Real?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
that's crazy.
Could we do it? Like if we both agreed to do it, the only way I can see me and my future wife agreeing to doing something like this is if we're almost about to divorce. And this is the last option, and we're like, how do we try something different, something new to be able to fix this marriage? And so that's the only way I think I can be even in this on this boat.
Okay.
But nah.
What's up, Dr. Dave? See, he over there grinning.
So we have to think about it.
Don't give me the objective answer, man. Give me the personal answer first.
Well, my personal answer is it can't work.
Why?
Why? Because
why can't it work for you?
If it's from me being the head of the house, how can I lead from two different houses? She has to be able to believe in my dream, believe in my leadership, and if and if she's not witnessing that 24/7, then there's some type of there's something they're missing.
She's not bearing witness to my leadership display. I didn't even think of that piece.
That's good.
That was good.
However,
macho.
If you're looking at it from a historical perspective, it's worked for centuries in all types of different.
What's worked?
Yeah, what's worked?
The ideal
being married and living in separate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, are you saying that in where there's so you're thinking about in the context of several wives?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one that just it would have to be practical because physically you can't have a bunch of wives in one place. You need other places.
But the question is though, do each wife buy into your leadership?
No, but I'm saying in the historical context you're bringing up, I think that's only like relevant or like that point only has weight because of if you had several wives, I think they lived in other separate houses by necessity is what I'm saying. Not because someone thought this is going to be healthy.
But why can't you apply the same concepts to the conversation that we're having?
Because the historical, for lack of a better word, okayness back then, it's not. You're trying to like superimpose that on a idea present today.
But it happens now. Think about all the shows, Sister Wives, or even just the lifestyle, if you understand what that means. So there's people who live that lifestyle.
Yeah. So what's happening that makes it work for the people that do it without the multiple wives things? Like just
I think
one man, one
both
wife
buying into the concept.
They both buy into
it. Her realizing that just because we live in separate houses doesn't mean that I'm not the head of that house.
Ricardo, is there any reality where this works out for you?
No.
There's nothing. There's nothing
said for him.
Well,
it may not work for him.
No, I'm saying
work for somebody else.
Okay, but we can say the marriage total won't work if one person buys into this and the other doesn't, right? So in the idea, it becomes not even a discussion if one person, it falls all apart when one person doesn't buy into it.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you had your significant other, your wife, she comes to you, she totally buys into this.
Right.
What could she tell you, if anything? Could she tell you anything? Could there be anything that she convinced you of or brings to the table that could make you go, maybe this might work?
Yes.
Is there anything?
The only thing would be if somehow she hit $1 billion and that was being split. But that's hypothetical. Am I right?
That was
because the truth is marriage by definition is unity. It's becoming one. It's merging two lives together. And so here I am trying to merge two lives together, living separately.
Yeah.
Now I'm creating a conflict. Now I'm creating some form of barrier, something that might be able to mess us up. So okay, maybe we can both agree on this. It might work out for the first 3 months, especially if the months are summer. But if those are winter months, I tell you what, it's not gonna work. At least that's me.
But I think you said something like that triggered another thought in me, is that you said by definition, right, what marriage is. And I think we live in a society where there are more and more things that are becoming relative. Like there are no absolutes. There are no one defined thing. Like people are now, mind you, there's some aspect of that in society and culture that I think is healthy and it's progressive and it's good. Right. There's other parts of that where it becomes a dangerous, slippery slope. Because if we then look at the world and how we navigate it and ideals and concepts, and we say everything is relative now, you know how dangerous that is to broad stroke that across everything. Everything's relative. That's very dangerous. So we have to have some standard for some things, right? And for other things, it's healthy to move forward, like technology, right? If there was to just be a standard for technology and never have room for someone else's interpretation or approaches, we wouldn't have the amazing advancements we have now, right? So when you have marriage, you know, some of these like core stable dynamics, you know, it's like saying, when somebody says like love, right? I love you. And somebody goes, well, I love you too. I just have a different definition of what love is. And you go, that's funny because the way you love me seems to hurt like hell a lot, right? Why? Because now I've said, well, love is relative. Well, see, now that allows too much for your relativity or your approach because we have no standard in our relationship. Now it could potentially harm me, or it cannot allow me to feel fulfilled or, you know, appreciate it, respect it, the way that I'm doing it with my, you know, living out my definition of love. So when it comes to marriage, I think that's a big key.
Yeah, I'm about to throw a wrench.
I know you are. You're gonna be Ricardo. You're gonna be the devil's advocate now. You're gonna.
Nah, but the truth is, how many people are married, live in a big house, and live two separate lives? So really, what's the difference between living in two separate houses and living in a big house and
still being separate?
You're still on your social media, or you're still attached to your phone, or you're still
that's true
in your man cave.
I can see that happens. That happens.
Can I say something on? I'm thinking because you mentioned technology, right? No one's even touched on the idea that there's potentially someone living in Japan, married to someone in the U.S., but living in this thing called the metaverse. Right? Where people are going to try to be married to someone on the other side of the planet just because they could put on a virtual reality set and be able to be married. So in this conversation, that sounds possible when you think of technology. But it doesn't.
But I think you're always going to. It's something to be like missed. And you brought up an excellent point. Is that some people they might be vehemently opposed against this physical idea of living separately, but they convince themselves we're here, but emotionally they actually are. And so, hey, why have the big defense against walking out physically what you already walk out emotionally, mentally every day in your marriage, right? And so I think what some people do, what I would argue to that point is say, well, you know what? Having proximity though together, even if you are mentally, emotionally separate, having proximity at least affords better opportunity to eventually get on the same page emotionally, mentally. If we now take what we are experiencing emotionally, mentally, living in the same house, and we go, well, you know what? We're already separate emotionally, mentally. We'll just live in separate houses. Once you do that, now you're
disconnected.
You're making the opportunity to be connected even farther, more difficult. So at least you have opportunity. Now, obviously that changes when you have environments where people are saying, well, because we're disconnected emotionally and mentally, living in the same house, it's becoming dangerous. It's becoming harmful, whether it's verbal abuse, physical abuse.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, so then in those contexts where people say, they're going to get separated. They're not going to be divorced, but we're going to separate. That's when it becomes very efficacious in those contexts where let's give some space to each other so that we can maybe regroup, work on ourselves, maybe, right? Those are like temporary things. I think there's good benefit in having that be a temporary thing if there's a defined goal, right? Because that's another thing that's like shocked me is people who like they decide to get separated, and you hear about people they've been separated for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how does that happen? That happens because there was no defined goal, processes in place. When we get separated, what are we going to be working on? Right? What's like the point? What's the goal?
And we're not dating other people.
Oh, that's
a whole nother subject.
I think that's very difficult to even say. Let me ask you guys this: do you guys know anybody that's in this situation, like that are married, that live separately? I personally don't. That's why I mentioned.
I mean, I hear about it on like social media, and I think at least the places where I hear about it on social media, I know it's like a bunch of horrible like stories on social media, but at least the ones that I know about on social media, it seems to be a thing that just works for both people.
Right.
Like, so how we said at the beginning, it's not one person buying into this idea and trying to sell it to the other spouse, and then the other spouse is just like, all right.
Yeah.
No, like these individuals both have, agree that they both want this. Like there isn't like some like, horrible like issue or like, they're not, considering divorce, but this is what's working for them. And that's like, I think a huge big key, like, especially when it comes to men and our marriages or, monogamous relationships, when it comes to us like discussing them maybe one another, I think a huge problem I see is like we start to like compare.
Right.
Like, right? Like, or we might see our wives or significant others or girlfriends like compare our relationship to like another's. And like that's a like big no. I always say like oh, why you can't be more like so and so's husband, or why you can't do, and I'm like, that might work for them, like the way that they do that, right?
Yeah, but you're also not being the wife either, right? It's like, why can't you be like so and so's wife? You know what I mean? It's
like
we're not.
Yo,
them.
I'm gonna take the fifth. You trying to get somebody in trouble?
I'm not married, gang. I'm not married. I just want to make that clear.
How long have you been in your relationship?
My current relationship, I'm gonna say 5 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it serious?
Oh yeah, serious.
It's serious. Okay.
Usually all my relationships, that's the problem with me, is I love relationships. So I'm a person that.
That's not a problem. Don't even say that like that.
Well, you gotta understand
the problem with me.
It's not a problem. You're right. It's not a problem. It's but I enjoy relationships. So when I look for a partner, I'm looking for a long term.
Facts.
Facts. When you ask this question, obviously I'm married, so I use my other relationships and filter it through that, thinking what I've been in. So that's crazy part that I think when you think of like having a marriage and living separately, that falls under the same category of being like, let's have an open relationship. In my mind.
Yeah.
You get me? It's like, what boundaries, what do we have together that's going to be different from other relationships? We're living separately. All right, so now we can sleep with other people. Oh, now we cooking for other people.
Well, that brings up another point though, is if you both agree to this living separately thing, right? There has to be a crazy OD amount of trust.
Give me a list. Give me that, right?
There's got to be like living separately would require so many other facets of doing relationship to be on like 100. Like you can't be living separately and you have like even a 1% amount of doubt. Of like
I got all the doubt.
That's grumbling. But you're saying you have all the doubt, but without.
I'm gonna delete all the dudes on your social media type doubt. You know what I mean? Because I need security. As a man, you need security.
So why wouldn't you just say no? Like
you're right.
That's an option. Like you can't say okay, I'm okay.
You're right.
Living separately, but
I
need you to do all this. I need you to leave.
Yeah,
well, now you're not okay.
No, now she's gonna have to reconsider this whole thing of wanting to bring. I'm down. Let's just have these boundaries or this list of things that we agree upon.
Okay. So you're making a discussion. Let's have like a plan of approach.
Exactly.
This is what you want.
It's not black and white, is what I'm saying. I'm saying let's make a list. All right, this is what you want. All right, let's see what this looks like on paper. And if it looks like something I don't agree with, then no, thank you. Maybe we should just separate.
Nah, trust is, you can't avoid that. You can't avoid that. Would you say for guys, trust or I'll approach it general like that. Would you say for guys that the concern of trust, like trust coming up in their mind as like a talking point or even a thing that's really important to them, do you think it rises to the same degree of importance that it has historically been for women? Like, do you think trust is that important? Like, at least on the front end of like a relationship, when you're meeting somebody, you're dating, you're serious about this person, is that one thing that pops up in your mind as like, this is like a issue for me, being able to trust a female versus females that might
factors to that. I would say age is a factor to that.
How so?
Because
age ain't nothing but a number. What age?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. How's the age have this factor into trust?
Well, sort of. Obviously, I would think nothing is always and nothing is never. But the older you are, I would think that the more relationships that you've had,
the more trustworthy you.
No, actually, just opposite. If you are 40, and we're comparing someone who's 20, right? I would think that the 40-year-old would have more possibility and more probability for failed relationships, right? So,
all right. So hold up, just so I can understand where you're coming at this from. Let's say, let me just find a hypothetical median age for you where this would work. Let's say you're 30 years old, and you're playing a dating game, right? So that means you're dating, several people, okay? And feelings start to get a little more serious with two specific people in general, right? So now it comes down to you to like make your decision about which relationship are you going to take further and cut off all the rest, right? The two females, one is 25 years old and the other is 35 years old. So you're smack dab in the center. You're 30. You're dating a 25-year-old and you're dating a 35-year-old. You're saying you think trust might be more of a concern for you with the 35-year-old because she's older?
Nah.
Or
what I'm saying though, let's say I'm 40, right?
Yeah.
And I've had
multiple relationships.
4 long-term relationships, right?
And
3 of them has ended in me being heartbroken. I'm going to look at both of them women differently than when I was 20 and I only had one heart.
Oh, you're talking about you.
Yeah, me.
I'm saying how much is trust as a concern for you when it comes to trusting the other person? Like, does
That's
that?
What I'm saying.
Well, I'm saying, so you're talking about your personal experience, but I'm just saying you looking outwardly at an individual, does age factor at all? In addition to your personal experience, does age factor in at all? Like, you're probably more mature if you're 40, so I would imagine I shouldn't have more concerns trusting you. Like, you should be more trustworthy the older you are, more responsible.
But that's an assumption, and
we always make assumptions though. Like, so I'm just saying, is that one that pops up in your mind? Like, is the older I am in doing relationships, let's say just
I don't look at her age.
Let's say not intimate relationships, just let's say work relationships. The new employee, new associate, he's now assigned as your partner, right? He's 18, fresh out of high school though. They just hired him. Versus another person gets brought in, invited to the team. He's your associate partner, whatever, and he's 35. You don't think I might have more concern?
35-year-old could have not matured since he was 17.
You giving me possibilities. I'm saying, but that's how do we naturally think? You capping on me, Dick. Me, I'm like, the younger you are, the more I think I got to be concerned or watch.
I agree. I get where you're going.
Yeah.
I think so. You don't think so?
Dave trying to be all
because you're right. There's a chance you might run into that 40-year-old that acts like a 19-year-old. Like he's a little immature.
Yes.
But I definitely think I'm considering age, as you mentioned.
Along with your personal experience.
And for sure. Age, I'm thinking, was she married? Like her parents married? You get me? I'm thinking, like, where was she raised? You know what I mean? I'm thinking of these things because the truth is, all those play part on who she's gonna be towards you and with you. Like, the younger she is, of course I'm gonna think I can't trust her as much.
And I understand that that's an assumption I'm making when I'm having that thought. So obviously I don't act that out. Like, I don't treat that person differently because I'm thinking that. I make sure I maybe ask more questions.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we can't deny, like, we carry, it's a human trait. Like, we carry stereotypes, assumptions in our minds, our thoughts all the time. If we carry and walk those out, that's a different story. That's a different degree of, like, self-control, like making sure I don't walk out all of these assumptions because I understand their assumptions.
So it starts with us first.
No, correct. So I'm saying now past that, once you've gotten through you, how are you assessing that other individual?
That's
based on
counter-transference.
No, I'm saying after you've handled you appropriately. You don't have stereotypes or thoughts that are like just, like, come on, Dave, you playing dating? With me. Talking to anything, relationships. I'm now broad stroking relationships. So whether it's a dating relationship, a familial relationship,
you said off of age.
I'm saying now for anything. So age, all right, you the master of not judging nobody off no age, Dave. Okay. Anything else? There's no other factor that you.
There's obviously.
Okay, so let me hear it. What is it?
What factors?
Of just like meeting someone for the first time, what are some things that you look at to go?
One of the first questions I
ask.
Tell me about your parents.
Okay, so like Ricardo said, like that's really relevant.
Yeah, that is super relevant.
Really relevant. At least for me. I know a big thing for me and my wife, it put me at ease a whole lot, especially coming from like, past, broken relationships. It relieved me a lot to see and find out how close her parents were and married and for how long, like for her whole life, they've been married.
For the people watching, why does that even matter though?
It sets the foundation.
Why?
I can't know how to be a husband, or she can't know how to be a wife without actually seeing it day to day. That leadership, that understanding the roles of the marriage. Yeah. That plays a huge...
Well, I would say I wouldn't, jump to the conclusion of like saying it's like they can't know that. I mean, obviously there's a bunch of other ways. Having it directly and you living in it is the best in my opinion. But there are other ways. But for me, if I know you've been raised in that, brought up in that, it just makes me feel better. It puts me more at ease. Is it a surefire, like automatic? Obviously, no. There's people who been raised in that, like seen that, and then they turn out to be like serial cheaters. Like, and I'm like, yo, like your parents been married for 40 years. They never like what, what would, so there's other factors, us working in the human service, behavioral health, like we know there's other things that could occur in people's life, traumas that could take them off and, cause them to take a whole left turn when that's not what they were raised in.
Right.
Another big one for me personally is education. I know education isn't the all of be all.
Yeah.
But it shows that you can start something and you can see it through.
Good point.
So if you start school but then you don't finish it, well, like what are the reasons why? Like what is it that sort of took you off to this left when you were going right?
Yeah.
Like that's just some of those questions.
Not the education. I mean, for me, I didn't really look at education, but why I didn't look at education was, again, from my personal experience, because I dropped out of college after my freshman year when I was 19, right? So that makes sense that I wouldn't use that as a standard for someone else, because then that would have to make me look at myself and be like, then you must be trash. If you like evaluating this person because they didn't, they don't got a degree.
This. Hold on,
wait, let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
But interestingly enough, when I met my wife, my present wife, she was working on her second degree. And here I am with not even I just got a high school diploma. So that ended up coming off what you would have, it seemed like from what you're saying, what would have came off as a positive for her, came off as slightly threatening, to me, intimidating, So I had to kind of embrace this really strong Black woman, who been raising her kid on her own,
doing her thing,
and going to school, got her own place, and here I am, she found me living in my mom's basement, you know.
That's a good point. Though.
So it was gonna be the thing that either made me scared, intimidated, and pushed me away, or was gonna be the thing that motivated me to rise to the occasion,
to level up,
and eventually that's what it ultimately did. Shout out to me, give myself kudos. I finished, my bachelor's degree finally.
Oh, word.
After 20 years.
It doesn't matter when.
But that was a big part of her being there and being an example of me watching her strength and persevere.
She motivated you.
Yeah, man, I was like, nah, I gotta like how can I be the head of a home where a being like this exists who's killing? Like,
Right.
I have to step up if I even have a thought of being the head over someone so amazing and capable and persevering. But what was you gonna say?
I was just curious on both of you. Were you both your parents married? Like without divorce? Like
No,
did you have
when I was born, my mom was 15 when she had me, man.
Yeah, all right.
So I didn't grow up with my dad in the house.
With was she married by the time? Oh, all right.
So my mom went through 2 marriages along my like childhood, but no, like having my dad there or having even because she was married twice, like right.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't.
That's
grow up
interesting.
In that.
And about you? Yeah.
Hey yo, if you ain't go check that Team Father joint, yo, you really need to go check that because we really talk about that in that episode. And for me, no, and that's what sort of drove my curiosity and my understanding of if they aren't married, what are the factors? What are the things that are going to come into play for that young girl or that young man?
Right.
How do they learn? Because there's only so much that you can learn on TV. There's only so much that you can learn from Uncle Phil. There's only so much that you can learn
from music.
Music. So where do you learn those things?
Yeah, make sure y'all go back if y'all didn't catch that episode, 19-Year-Old Dads, where I had me and Dave on the episode. That was I think that was a part for me too. Like I grew up like for some people it can have the adverse impact, right? Where it's like because I didn't grow up with this, it made me not want to aspire to have that for myself.
Right.
Like, I grew up without it, so I'm fine as an adult without it, right? But then for others, it impacts them the other way, like it did me, and goes, that would have, I grew up, I think, watching other kids who had their parents, and I'm like, I saw how positively it impacted and helped them. And so when I grew up, I'm like, you know what? I want any kids I have to be able to have that. So it's like, yo, I wanted to be married and being raised old fashioned, like by, my great grandma, my grandma. It gave me those values where I felt like that was the direction that I should take my life, my family. So even like as a young man, having like a girlfriend, like I could kind of one hand how many girlfriends, like serious relationships I had, like which is probably 3, 2 of which I married, like, right? Like, so how you said, I enter going into relationships with the idea that this could be long term.
Yeah.
If you're not somebody that I thought had the qualities or characteristics of somebody I could be married to, like you wasn't even getting a date. Like I'm wasting my time. Like,
Right.
What's the point of dating? To me, that was the point. Again, me growing up old fashioned or tradition, that was the point of dating, or what some people call courting. Right? Is I'm dating. Why do I call you my girlfriend? Right? If the point is for us to just go out, be able to have fun, eat, dance, party, go to the movie, like we could do all of that without the title.
Facts.
If I'm honest, and I'm keeping it a buck. And in today's society, we could even include the sex in there. Like we could have sex, go to the movies, have fun, party, and we ain't got to give each other titles.
No,
like,
we just spend time together.
We just spend time together. Exactly. But if I'm gonna go to this point of calling you my girl, like why are we having titles if I don't have some idea where this could be something longer, long term?
For sure.
Yeah,
The reason why I asked that question though is because I'm starting to learn about myself, right?
Yeah.
And I'm learning how much I project of what this ideal picture of a relationship is and marriage is. And I find myself doing these things where I think it's going to lead to what I'm projecting. You get me? And I find it's like, it doesn't even work that way. It doesn't work like, I don't know.
So you had your parents married growing up?
My mom's been married 3 times. My father's 2. And they're separated. They separated when I was like in 2nd grade. But I got to see these things.
Yeah.
My mom also comes from like a DV background, right? Domestic violence.
Oh, okay.
So I got to see that partially. So, right, what that would do for a kid, right, is make him eventually like maybe abusive partner,
that's scary.
Or the total opposite, like you said, complete total opposite. And so I started I'm listening to you guys talk, and I'm like, wow, that's so interesting how we take our previous experiences, right? Let's say, for example, we're in Spain, all right? We see somebody walking, we're assuming they speak Spanish, but they don't.
Yeah. No,
right?
facts.
But because we're in Spain, I'm automatically checking these things in my head. I'm prejudging, blah, 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 blah. In the same case, it's like I'm in a relationship, but she has married parents. So like, so they speak Spanish. Nah, dude, they don't. The fact is they're not, they don't, they're not going to be the perfect, this girl's not going to be the perfect girl because she had parents that were married. She's not going to be the perfect girl, but we do project those things upon our relationships. So for example, back to the original thing that you said was, could you live in a house and be married and separate? Separately. We can't see that because that's not what we project.
Yeah, that's not
normal for us.
That's not part of our idea of things that make a good marriage.
Heck no, it's not.
But again, that's what makes me think back too to how over time, over generations, over centuries, definitions of things start to change based on eventually somebody sees it enough times done successfully, and then that starts to reshape. It's just like how I can imagine there's stereotypes or that people make of like black people, right? If for centuries we see a bunch of uneducated black people who we weren't allowed to read, we weren't who like speak horribly because of that, because we didn't have access to the English language, right? But then over time, from 300 years ago to now, you see very educated, astute black people who have degrees out the behind, talk eloquently. So it has to start to reshape that idea. Like every black person, I can assume now, doesn't know how to speak well because I've seen it well so many times now. It reshapes that idea. Now, obviously, we still have people that are that closed-minded and living under a rock who think black people that they see are uneducated. I think that's just stupid. Yeah. Like, I don't even see how you could, with so many advancements and things like that, black people just in America, let me just use America, right? Because for centuries, even before slavery, black people were doing amazing centuries ago. We've been how they say we've been trail? Like we've been doing amazing things.
Shouts out to Africa.
Yeah, shouts out to Africa. Right? But in America and in American history, even just over the last 150 years, it's so many things black people have been credited for doing amazing just here in contemporary American history. That for somebody to be walking in today and see a black person and have a stereotype or assumption that they're uneducated or don't know what that'd be ridiculous. So so the I think another central theme here, going over everything that we already talked about, right, is this. You worded it as, how did you say, like your own personal like ideals or what, like your image of this being done right, playing a role into because of your background, like what you experienced, whether it's divorce as a kid growing up, or you experience like the domestic violence with your parent or with your mom seeing that. There's this part of like doing like the self work, like brother Kevin Muhammad is big on that, right?
Absolutely.
Like he's always on like this the idea of like self work, like controlling the world within, right? To that point, as men, we one of the ladies on the live, said, ask the guys to talk about this. Why is it that men shy from therapy? And I don't know if it's something that's more a thing that's shied away from specifically more with men, or if it's a thing in, black and brown culture that might as a whole is shied away from. I would like to say it's probably the same. Like, I think as much as men shy away from therapy, maybe, I think is the same or close to that we as a culture of black and brown people probably shy away from it. If there is a difference, I think obviously I think for a multiple of reasons, women are more open to, our black and brown women might be more open to it. And that's just my opinion of what I believe is the nature of females. But for men, I think, to answer the audience question, why do men shy from it? I think many men shy from, and this is probably true for all men, I don't care what race you are or culture, I think we shy from it because peeling back emotional layers to a man can feel like it's weakness.
Vulnerability.
Like, yeah, like to be vulnerable. Like, I think to do therapy is, if you're ready for therapy, right? When you engage in therapy, it requires a certain degree of vulnerability and transparency to like the ugly, deep, dark feelings and emotions, right? And so to put yourself willingly as a man into this environment, I know when I go to this therapist's office every week or every month, the purpose of it is to bring me back to some of those places or inside me that I've tried to block out or, overcome so I could just be successful, or some idea of success from day to day or in relationships. One, it could be scary. So they're afraid, I think. And then it's two, the idea that for me to be emotionally vulnerable is to be weak. And those poor ideas, which I think are totally horrible and wrong, is what I think makes men shy away from therapy.
I'm gonna let you go first.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you get it.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, but you seem like you itching in your seat over there, though, Dave. Why do men shy from therapy, Dave?
Well, first of all, shout out to all the Black social workers.
Yo, big shout
to all
out,
the Black
yo.
social workers.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Somebody was telling me, man, I might want to go back to school, man, and
Be a social worker?
be one of the Black therapists out here for men. Like, there was like, some big money in that. It's not enough Black males.
No doubt.
Yeah. Okay.
So, just as a Black social worker myself, first thing I think of is this ideal or concept of what it is to be a man, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about that, we're always taught, even from little kids, and you hear most therapists say this, men are taught, get up, don't fall, right? Or
shake it off.
Stereotypes, right?
Shake it off, stop crying.
Boys play with Tonka trucks, girls play with dolls, right? So we are taught that men are strong, that they don't have this sort of emotional... Or
not that men are strong, we're taught men have to be strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right? Like you gotta rise to that
Or
occasion.
they don't show their emotions, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk about mental health, and you're talking about therapy, especially when you go to some place that isn't culturally competent, or you don't have a therapist who at the basic level can sort of vibe with you as being a Black male, or being Puerto Rican, or whatever melanin skin that you have, right? If we can't even vibe off of that, then I have to tell you what it is to be that, plus whatever I'm coming in.
Yeah.
So why do I want to even go through any of that? Wow. So I just skip the whole process.
I didn't even think of that. That adds like a whole nother degree of hard work to it. Like, it's already hard work for me to pull back the layers.
We're already thinking about it.
But before I even do that, I gotta first just bring you up to speed.
Teach you what to be a Black man in America. What it feels like driving while Black.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I didn't even think of that.
And I can't even teach you that.
I did not think of that, bro.
So
shout out to the Black social workers in America.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So not saying that
if y'all listening to this or watching this, make sure y'all share this with any Black social workers on your feed, Black and brown social workers, people who are in this field as a minority, man. That's huge. I totally did not think of that.
And most people don't, and that's why. That's one of the things that drove me towards wanting to be a Black social worker. So at least I can hit you from the perspective, hey, me and you may not have shared the same life, but hey, at least you don't have to show me what it's like to be a Black male. At least I got that part. I know that part.
Yeah.
So let's start from there. So your trauma may not have been when you're 2 or 3. Maybe it was when you were 15.
Yeah, facts.
And PTSD.
Facts.
Like, or post-traumatic slave syndrome, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So,
what you say, Ricardo? What's
that's
why do you think?
That is such a great point. Well, I think maybe you touched on it. I want to say though, guys, like we're macho men, right? We're at a young age. We are taught what you said is girls play with dolls, guys play with the cars. You scrape your knee, you're crying. Babies cry or girls cry. Some words you might hear, but not to mention it's like as a man, as a young boy. You're constantly trying to be a man, right? Little girls right now are trying to be women while little boys are trying to be men. And so trying to be a man, we're constantly looking at the superhero of who we think is a manly man. And usually that person doesn't cry. And usually that person is fighting crime. Or usually that person is tough and big and never talking about their feelings.
Or he cries behind doors.
But we don't see that. It's the stuff we don't see. And the people that we're trying to mimic are people that are tough. And so when it comes down to speaking about our emotions, we're not about vulnerability, right? I remember being young, my first time going in, right before I went to counseling for the first time, I remember trying to talk my feelings. And that felt this weird thing, like almost like a guy. A guy was trying to kiss me. I felt gay.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
It was so foreign. Like
it was foreign to even speak about my emotions.
Yeah.
And it put me in an uncomfortable position. And plus, this is why a lot of guys don't go to therapy, because they got their boys. They'll go out and get some drinks.
Yeah.
They'll talk it out. They talk their problems, figure out that their problems is just like everyone else's problems, go back home, and that's it.
So the problem actually becomes normalized.
Becomes
and they don't even identify it as a problem anymore.
It's not.
Because you got the same thing. So
it's not a problem.
So I'm cool. What's the point of having to go somewhere to talk this problem through? Because this is normal. I
got my boys.
Like it should be okay for me to be responding to this. You know, if I'm smacking my girl at home for inner trauma or stuff broken inside me, but I talk to my boys and he's smacking his girl at home.
I got my boys.
This must be normal.
And also I'm tough. I'm also presenting myself as a tough guy. So what happens is I think the only way we can go towards therapy is if we figure out, if we normalize vulnerability, if we figure out that it's okay to speak about how we feel. Yo, Chris, I didn't like how you did this. It made me feel blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Versus like, I don't like you, Chris. Let's bang out.
Yeah, like you
let's throw hands.
Snuff me or something. Yeah.
So we have to learn confrontation isn't always a fight. And we also have to learn vulnerability doesn't mean you're gay.
Normalize. That's a hashtag, bro.
Yeah, you should.
Normalize vulnerability.
Yo, big shout out to Kevin Muhammad.
Black Men and Trauma.
Black Men and Resilience.
Yes,
Resilience, excuse me.
Shout out to Kev, man.
Because we can live in trauma, but it's the resilience part that changes that story that you're speaking of. Because y'all might hit y'all wives, but you come to me, I don't hit on my wife. It's that conversation that changes your perspective of what it is to be a man. So if we all live the same story, the same trauma, then we're just feeding off of each other's trauma. It's the resilience part that starts to change behavior and starts to change our communities and starts to set the example for young men becoming men or young boys becoming men.
Yeah.
So it totally changes that narrative. So
it's a mindset for sure. It's a mindset thinking macho man. I mean, think about it too. We have all these wrestlers, right? We got wrestlers we used to grow up on. What is it? Die Hard movies. I mean, even our rappers, even our music was all tough street stuff growing up.
Yeah.
It's only after certain artists started being more vulnerable that, for crying out loud, Drake talking, singing to women. We in the dudes in the streets was like, nah, I ain't about that. And
hold on. But before there was a Drake, there was a LL. I need love.
LL.
Yo, come on, man. Shout out to LL, man.
Cool J.
Yo, just recently inducted into the Hall of Fame, man.
Even before that, there was a positive vibe. People forget about hip hop in the 70s and 80s when there was a positive vibe. KRS-One.
Yeah.
Positive vibe.
Right.
mad positive vibes.
Yeah, but I don't think that was positive. But it wasn't like how he said. It wasn't like an emotional vulnerability piece. To
It wasn't.
Like,
it wasn't.
it was
like,
positive though. But I'm talking about when it came to like how he's saying like the Drakes and
sex,
dudes being like adding the sex in there and getting in touch with their feelings.
Yeah.
Like you got L,
When I'm alone in my room and I stare at the wall.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. Like I need love. What? Like hearing
No dude was saying I
this
need love
muscle
like
bound
that. Yeah.
gold chain wearing dude talking about he need love.
Dudes in prison with their looking up to I need love.
Yo, but that was facts. Like that was real. He I think as far as hip hop at least, he was the first to really dare to walk that line, and then it like just blew this whole world open. Like where now you realize, the fellas who thought being hardcore was like the chick magnet. Nah, like being like this vulnerable, romantic dude, that was actually the magnet. Like what you thought was like working, but. Yo, man, shout out to, again, like trailblazers like Kevin Muhammad in our community who are pushing, those initiatives to bring our men together in that transparency, in that vulnerability. And what I think what's really, really like helpful in those spaces, because I've attended one of those meetings with Brother Kevin Muhammad. Make sure you guys, if you're local in the Connecticut area, you catch one of those opportunities. But what I think is so awesome in that setting, where I've attended one of his meetings, and what I think works for me just as an individual in the therapeutic settings or where I've like gone to therapy, is when the person across from me or the facilitator at like, meetings like, Brother Kevin facilitates, where the facilitator or the person across from me is able to display some degree of understanding, like you said, right? Like being able to understand where I have a baseline that I don't have to explain. And two, this kind of reciprocal. I think this is really, really important for men. This reciprocal vulnerability and transparency, like right, like I'm willing to be, like brother Kevin Muhammad in those settings. Like he's so willing to be equally transparent and vulnerable to you as a brother,
right,
coming to the room as to the degree he wants you to be. Like he's willing to be the first, like how we mentioned before going on the air, like servant leadership, right?
Right.
Like how do I best motivate you and encourage you to do what I want? Let me go first. Let me do it first. Let me exhibit it first. Let me show you what vulnerability and transparency looks like. And then now you go, your turn, right? And I think that makes men feel more open just to the idea, right? Like we go into a space or many spaces where, okay, you want me, you called me here, invited me here to be vulnerable and transparent, but you look everything but.
Right.
Like where they do that at? Like, no, psych your brain. You're not hoodwinking me. Like, you're not gonna play me.
Exit stage left.
Yeah, nah. We gotta have
set the
that.
tone.
Yeah. We gotta have that reciprocated for sure. Let me see. We might have time for one other question from the ladies. This is quick enough. We got enough time to maybe squeeze this one in, because it goes off a little bit about just like, taking care of ourselves as men, on the inside, maybe mental, emotionally, but this was more like on the outside. Like, so, the ladies were saying we need men to do more taking care of themselves, like physically, like, so, like grooming, like their teeth, their skincare.
Hygiene.
Hygiene, not so much hygiene. I think most men, there's always those few who forget deodorant, just the basics. But but I think, see, when we talked about age, I think for me, as I've gotten older, I've been more conscious of like the other extra stuff. Not like, not like I didn't wait till I was 30 to start putting deodorant on, but like past that, like,
Cologne.
like, if I, got out the shower, put on some deodorant, maybe if it was somewhere special, I'd put cologne on. I'm not like a cologne everyday dude.
That was me.
But like past that, like just like deodorant and lotion, my face, that was it.
So your wife don't have a favorite cologne?
No, she does. But I'm saying as I've gotten older, this is where I'm saying this is changing. As I've gotten older, like over the last, let's say, 10 years, 5 years, and I don't really know like what to point it to, like why, but like I've just been more aware of like, yo, let me see what they got, let me see what my wife using for her face. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
take care of my pores, or me like Googling, or on YouTube trying to find like, beard, stuff, oils. Like, let me, and I don't know if, I want to say maybe it comes from just when you are older, I think you find the free time. It's not even free time, right? No, you reallocate time, right? Because it's not like you got the same 24 hours in a day that you had, 100 years ago, right? You reallocate how you use time. And I think I've gotten more in tune with like taking care of my whole me, right? So first it started on the inside as I matured, and as I matured and as I got older, it started on the inside. And then as I got older and continued to mature, now it's like, you know what? Now that my inside is more complete, right, whole, like you work from the inside out. Let me, these nails, man.
makes
Like,
sense.
well, you know what I mean? Like, let me start, taking care of this skin. Like, that's wild how that happened. I don't know. You've always been like a grooming guy, like the cologne and like the skincare and all of that.
Man, I grew up with 3 brothers. And so I started learning how to use my mom's shavers to give shape ups.
Oh, do the shape ups.
To do shape ups real quick. You know what I mean? So I've always been interested in them when it came to hair grooming.
Yeah.
However, I can tell you one thing. I went 4 days, 5 days without showering in high school. High school would be like, I didn't care.
What?
You get me? I swear, and it's the truth.
How did you even get away with
No,
that?
not to mention I'll be fresh too. I probably had the best, some fresh sneakers on, maybe a clean jersey. But I probably went 3-4 days without showering.
Wow.
But I want to
mask it with like Axe.
Probably Axe too. It probably was definitely
So he was a kid in high school
I'm that guy.
face smelling like mad Axe.
You know I was. You walk
But
in, you're like, Ricardo came in. How you know?
Yo.
But I do want to say though, just like my first car, right? Just like my first car, I got in an accident with it. I didn't take care of it. Because for me it didn't matter cosmetics. It didn't matter the way it looked. All that matters is I got to where I wanted to go. And so the same with as far as looks, taking care of myself, all that. Heck, my mom was washing my clothes when I was young. So why would I even care about my clothes? My mom was buying my shampoo, my soap. Why would I care about the smell goods and that? So as I got older and I became more responsible, I started learning how I need to care more for certain things, especially how I look. I didn't care about this car, so I crashed it a couple times. But as I got older, I started washing it more. I started cleaning the insides more. I started making sure everything was good because I got older. So I think maturity comes with a level of cleanliness. I think that's how you would say it. It's not, so I think ultimately it's like the older you get, ladies, remember, the older the man gets, the more cleansy he will be. The more he will take a shower, the more chances he will deodorant and cologne for no reason versus needing a reason. Does that make sense?
I think as a married man, you sort of start to, I always tell my wife, right, I'm a representation of you, right? And she's a representation of me, right? So if I'm looking all crazy, right?
That's true.
Or she's looking all crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's sort of...
Look at Dave with the maturity social work responses.
I think you starting to do it out of love for your
partner.
fellow partner, right?
So you never went 3 days without a shower, is what you're saying?
Ever.
I mean, I was in the military, so obviously, yeah.
Ever. All right, then.
Okay.
So, but shout out to all the military folk.
Yes.
You call it a baby wipe bath.
Okay.
Right? So you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Yeah. Yo.
So as
Said
long as
back
you
and
hit
cracks.
the important position, right?
Yo, what did you say?
Sack, back, and cracks.
Sack back.
So you learn your wife's favorite cologne.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a cologne
Yeah.
that she don't like me wearing out period, unless I'm wearing.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's put in the back.
Yeah.
Wow, this is the G14 classified cologne?
You not wearing that.
Wow.
But I think all women do, and as a man, that's a cologne that you wear on those special nights when you get out the shower.
Yeah.
So how are you with your like skincare? Do you have like a skincare regimen part of your day?
To be honest with you, I don't.
No.
I
mean, we wash our face, we do the basic care, but I
definitely have a
am
skin
blessed.
regimen. I'd have to now. In high school, I learned I had psoriasis on my face, and I would just go let it be. Then I learned how to take care of the psoriasis, and so now, thank God to a few ex-girlfriends, they taught me how to use lotions, proper skin moisturizers. You know what I mean? And so now, I take care of my skin.
Razors to your face. That's the biggest thing.
No what?
Razors.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I guess that's for certain people.
electronic.
yeah.
Now, if I use a razor, my face look completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say my wife has like complained that I spend a little bit too much time in the bathroom. Like, so I have like this whole like, but it's only because of like, me trying to grow this beard now. Right? Like, so I have like I have the like the oils and the balm. I got a beard balm, got a beard oil. I got I got to comb it, and I got this like Jamaican type, cream, oil to, I got the black soap.
You are shining. I ain't want to say anything about your skin, but you shining.
So, but it all, I think it's a result of like happening from the inside out, like really, like, and I think I think I've continued it because, even my daughter now, she's saying like, I'm making her late for school because she like, they got this big going joke, my wife and my daughter, where they're like, dad waits to begin his face regimen when it's time to take you to the bus stop. Like,
That's when he starts.
Yeah, that's when he starts. So, but I find that when I do it, it makes me feel
feeling good inside.
so good. Like I feel more confident. I feel ready for the day because I've taken that extra like time on me. I've invested it in me, and I think I think it gives you more capacity, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, throughout the rest of the day, to take on anyone else. So if you're doing relationship, you're doing marriage, you're doing parenting, if you have some part of your day, hopefully it's the start of your day, where you are pouring into yourself, you then have a reservoir of which to pour out to somebody else.
Complete facts.
Like I can't, it's almost like it reminds me of like we see like the old, like, whether it's National Geographic or videos of like Mother Nature, animals who carry food in their mouths to their, to the rest of the family or the children, right? So it's like me carrying that reservoir of water, what's edifying to the rest of my family, to my wife, So first I have to drink the water.
Right.
First I have to have it. And then now that I have it, I could go to my wife's bedside, who's 4 months pregnant now. Shout out to the wife. And I could fill her with a little bit of water. And then now my wife, hopefully she's doing the same thing that I'm doing. She has a reservoir of which she's first filled herself. She can now go to our children. Us both could go to our children and have something to pour out into them.
That's a good point.
And so, it's how we've heard it a dozen times. It's just like how they say with the whole airplane, thing, right?
Exactly what came to mind when you started saying
They tell you on the airplane, like emergency procedures, right? If this thing goes down and like, you got the oxygen mask fall out,
Put yours on first.
I need you to put yours first on. Like, mom, dad, right? Don't panic on me and think, oh no, first I got to get my kid. Like, cause you won't be able to help your kid at all if you faint, if you're done. So, yeah, man, shout out to everybody who's doing the internal work. Again, shout out to Kevin Muhammad, man. Big up to that dude. And those who are just doing the work on the inside out, I think that's going to lead to, I'm a big advocate of telling people all the time, the best thing I could do for you is love myself. That's like, in the last few years, has been a like revolutionary, life-changing idea for me. Best thing we could do for other people, y'all. You have people you care about. You have people you say you love every day. The best thing you could do for any of those people is love you take care of you, make sure you're a whole person through and through, so you could be the best you can for other people. Dr. Dave C., you know how we got to end every show, man. You gotta leave the people with something that's like lunch. That's why it's called free lunch.
Hey.
Something that's edifying for the soul, though. This is free lunch, free food for the soul. What do you want people to take away from this episode?
So I think we all know the story, right, of the hare and the turtle, right?
Yes.
And we all hear the same thing, right? The turtle eventually wins because the hare was lazy. He sort of took a break, right?
Right.
I recently heard a different spin on it, right? That sort of made my mind sort of go at 1,000, right? And that was it that the hare was that much more talented or that much more than the turtle? Or was it that the turtle actually finally stuck its head out and lived up to its potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say this, for anyone listening to this, right? Sometimes we have to stick our head out to live to our full potential, right? Sometimes we have to do things out of our comfort zone to live to our full potential. So if that's going to mental health, or if that's talking to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And we eventually do that, right? Because we want to be able, as you so eloquently said, not only feed ourselves and feed our family, but we want to feed those around us, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I admire so much about what Kevin Muhammad is doing. He could have easily fed those around him, but he is literally reaching back out into the community and is feeding everybody, right?
Yeah.
So I would say just be more like the turtle. Stick your head out.
Stick your head out.
Do some things for yourself,
Bars.
but don't forget about everybody in your community.
Bars.
Don't forget that those people are the people who will eventually make your community great. And I think me and you even talked about this, about having you spoke about the situation with your daughter, right?
Yeah.
About her being subject to the kids picking on her because she had a dad in her life, right?
Yeah.
So those people are the people who, when you stick your head out, that you're gonna affect, that you're gonna change their life. So be change agents in your community.
Facts. What you got for us, Ricardo? What you got for the people, man?
No, and I liked what you said earlier, man, and I wanted to let the people know, man. Just a quick something that I live by, and I'm pretty sure if you guys live by it, it might help you. But if you look good, you smell good, you'll feel good.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. Yo, you heard the man, real short and sweet. If you look good, smell good, you feel good.
It's a fact.
Yo, and people who feel good, do good. Come on, somebody. Yo, it's free lunch with the real Frii. Free food for your soul, y'all. Peace.